كل الذين انضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر wnzk راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on wnzk 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM and wdmv 700 AM. Good morning, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis. Welcome to another program on Radio Baladi on US Arab Radio. The topic today is very dear and near to my heart. It's interfaith solidarity, combating divisions, and boosting spirituality. And with me this morning discussing this important topic are two pioneers in this field of interfaith dialogue and community activism, Mr. Daniel Spiro and Ms. Amber Khan. Mr. Daniel Spiro is a community activist and interfaith organizer and also an author of several books about faith and religion. And Ms. Amber Khan is a community activist and interfaith activist and also a communication strategist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Good morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning, and thank you for being with us this morning. Dan, I'll start with you. There is a famous quote by Margaret Mead that says, "Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can indeed change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that really has." And despite that, I always hear some cynical voices. Sometimes when I say I'm a member of different interfaith groups and initiatives, people say, do you think that it's possible for a small group of people to simply go out there and change a problem that has been going on for decades, like, for example, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? You are co-founder of a group called JIDS, Jewish Islamic Dialogue Society. Tell us a little bit about the reason and the logic and rationale behind the founding of this group, and also your response to this kind of cynicism.
Well, JIDS was created around the same time Barack Obama became president. Early 2009. And there's really two main functions. First of all, we wanted to be, voices for peace. We wanted to be peacemakers. And bringing Jews and Muslims together, and I should say, and allies, I think we can be voices for peace, and we have been voices for peace. But we're also an enlightenment society. We have found as individuals that to fully explore our Islam, we need to learn from the other cousin faiths. To fully explore our Judaism, we need to learn from the other cousin faiths. And as a Jew, I've been enriched incredibly by studying the Quran, studying the Hadiths, by spending time with my Muslim cousins, and opening our hearts to other faiths as well through JIDS. So I think it's really had that kind of dual function that is invaluable. And as far as responding to the cynics, I don't think that many of us changed the world overnight. Maybe none of us, right? But I think that organizations like JIDS and other interfaith groups are significant and positive forces in society. And I have seen us play dividends in terms of the way people think about, for example, Middle East peace, but also in terms of the tolerance that people have towards their cousin faiths. And you notice that I use the term cousin faiths. That doesn't mean that we are, first cousins biologically, but we are first cousins metaphorically. and that is a term that we use in JID, so that when I see, for example, a woman with a hijab, I'm thinking that's my family. And I'm hoping that when they see me wearing a yarmulke, Muslims in JIDs will have the same feeling.
Absolutely. I always say, we are not identical twins, but we are cousins, and that's important to understand both the similarities and the differences, and we learn from both our similarities as well as our differences. And I know, having been a member of JID for many years now myself, that definitely there is a value in learning from both our similarities as well as our differences. I know that we did not shy away, for example, from discussing some of the most sensitive political issues, but we do it in a very, amiable and very civil way. You want to comment a little bit about the importance of both, stressing similarities and differences in interfaith work then?
Yes. The best way of explaining the similarities is this. I have a daughter who in 2 weeks is going to be an ordained rabbi, and I'm obviously very proud of her. And when people tell me how much they enjoy what she does, that creates a bond, an incredible bond, because, of course, we share the same beloved. Well, similarly, when I'm with my Muslim cousins and the word Allah comes up, the word God comes up, we have this incredible bond, this shared beloved that brings such joy to my heart, to their hearts, and we love to get back to that. We love to talk about our faith. We love to talk about our appreciation for God and our devotion for honoring God in the world, and that's but one of a number of similarities we have. Similarly, when we get to know each other and become friends, as we do in groups like JID, our differences become something we can play with, something we can embrace, something that adds spice in life. Much like when we go to a family reunion and we see, our cousin family, and we realize, they're not identical to us and we have these differences, but it's enjoyable. So, and we learn more about ourselves through our differences with our cousins. And it was one of my greatest honor to be on a retreat, a Jewish retreat. There was nobody there but Jewish people. And we were asked to prepare a poem. And when I gave mine, the rabbi said, "I can tell you've been reading the Quran a lot lately." And I felt like that was such a compliment, because it meant that my work with Islam was really being taken to heart. And that's what we look for. I want my Muslim cousins to learn from Judaism the same way and embrace the differences and actually start to absorb some of what makes Judaism uniquely beautiful.
Absolutely. Amber, you are an American Muslim woman, and you're also very active in the interfaith community. You have your own journey with interfaith work. Can you tell us a little bit about how this journey started, your interest in interfaith work, what triggered that, and some of the most important initiatives that you're also taking part in? Amber?
Sorry about that. I apologize. I had it on mute to just prevent background noise. Dan, thank you so much for sharing the background on JIDs, and I think the word that you use is family and connection. When I think and I hear about the work that you're doing, and it does resonate for me. I mean, I've celebrated. I was born in Pakistan, but I've celebrated every birthday in the United States, and consider myself to be one of these, kind of an American that has these traditions and cultural roots and histories that make my experience very early on, I realized, different and unique, and trying to fit in and figure out where I connect was always something that my family kind of modeled through engaging and creating, I think, awareness and bridges of understanding with others. And so when I was very young, actually, I was living, we moved around a lot in the United States. I had the opportunity to live in Michigan, in a small town called Kalamazoo. At one point, we lived outside of Chicago. We lived in rural parts of Illinois and in Pennsylvania. And all these places, I share that because they're nothing. The regions were nothing like the Washington metropolitan region today, or the New York, New Jersey area, where we have
so many different folks from so many parts of the world sharing and interacting and living as neighbors and working as coworkers. And so my journey, my interfaith journey actually began when I was in school, when my parents enrolled me in a Catholic school because it was the best option in the community and we had the resources to avail it. And when you are a young Muslim from a practicing family that goes to Catholic school, my parents prepared me by saying, listen, we celebrate each other, we respect each other's faith. You have to share who you are and recognize people are not going to know you. So my interfaith journey began when I was very young, and it often took the form of not formalized organizing in the classic sense, but in sharing and making myself available and being willing to communicate. And I think one of the things that I learned as a kid early on was that the similarities in recognizing the shared values came from not talking about what I believe and how I believe from an ideological or scriptural place, but really from how we lived and how we viewed the world and how we practiced what we believed in our everyday life. What did it mean to be Muslim and to be a Muslim family, and why did that lead to my engagement in, being a brownie and doing community service projects or volunteering to be a volunteer with different organizations that helped our local community. And as I got older, I realized and began to recognize that the very positive experiences I had, the more and more misunderstanding or lack of knowledge was melted with awareness and familiarity and shared experience. As I became older, I started to recognize that not everyone had that experience. Two, that the absence of that experience, the absence of familiarity leads to and reinforces, I think, a willingness to believe sometimes and embrace ideas that are not grounded in reality. And so my concern with what I was seeing, and at the time when I was a teenager, I was living in the suburbs of Memphis, in the kind of shadow of the civil rights movement, the stories of resistance and of religious tension. And I got more involved in my college campus in working on interfaith community service projects, and then began to see how community service and faith also were being exploited, to say that, in a different way for political purposes. And so as a young adult, my kind of journey along interfaith work was very personal, and then I began to quickly see that if I don't get involved and do more to address the lack of understanding, familiarity, the kind of political manipulation of not knowing was being used to drive significant wedges and to justify legislative activity that would divide our communities. And so I got very involved after I graduated, with issue campaigns and began working with organizations around different civil rights issues. And then I really connected with an organization called the Interfaith Alliance. And that was the beginning, I think, of a different kind of approach, Sahar, to how I see the connection between we must form the foundation of knowing so that we can't be exploited and political divisions can't take place. And today, fast forward, as a parent, as a mom of two beautiful boys, I have another view now of interfaith relations. I have another perspective as a neighbor, as a friend of community members who come from different walks of life. And again, the political climate kind of intersecting. I see the critical importance of going back to where I began, which is connecting and creating stronger relationships. So I recently have become more involved, and I'm very excited to be a part of a couple of initiatives. The Sisterhood of Salam Shalom is an organization that I feel like has taken me full circle, where I am now a part of this amazing organization. And it really is very much, we call each other sisters. We create organizational units, these circles that women, Muslim women, and Jewish women of differing levels of practice come together in a regular way to get to know each other with one objective, is to see each other, to understand each other, and to learn from each other. And it's been amazing, enriching, and inspiring, because I will say the last year was a test. This last political year
come back to this point about, why interfaith work is especially important now, and what is the significance of this interfaith work in terms of bridging differences and also boosting, some form of solidarity and combating divisions. We will touch upon this very important angle right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
Welcome to the United States. Please proceed to the passport control.
ماذا يقول؟ إلى أين أذهب؟ ماذا علي أن أفعل؟ لو سمحت، هل تساعدني؟ ماذا قال هذا الرجل في الإعلان؟
ألا تعرف الإنجليزية؟
أعرف، ولكن أساسيات فقط.
عليك بتعلم اللغة.
ولكن أين؟ يوتيكا كوميونيتي سكول ESL بروجرام، أساتذة متخصصون، منهج متميز، يمكنك التسجيل طوال العام. لرسوم التسجيل ومواعيد الفصول الدراسية عليك الاتصال بالهاتف رقم
586-797-6960 586-797-6960.
تحدث اللغة وتعلم نمط الحياة مع يوتيكا كوميونيتي سكول ESL بروجرام. تعلم، تحدث وأكثر.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
It's never too early to get your child on the right track. From their first words to first grade, Dreamy Children's Center in Troy works closely with parents to provide an experience that goes beyond early education. The highly qualified and experienced staff use a variety of programs that can help nurture important personality traits like responsibility, independence, problem-solving, motivation, and respect. They also have educational programs ranging from preschooling for infants, toddlers, transitional toddlers, and pre-K to Montessori-approved programs and bilingual curriculums for young children. They're open from 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., can provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner with snacks in between, and can also arrange for after-school pickup. Dreamy Children's Center in Troy is located at 37373 DeQuinder, just above 16 Mile Road, and can be found on Facebook at Dreamy Children's Center. Ask about the free preschool program. Call today, 248-680-9170, 248-680-9170.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM and wdmv 700 AM. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, and we are discussing today interfaith solidarity and its role in combating divisions and also boosting spirituality. And with me this morning discussing this very interesting topic is Mr. Daniel Spiro and Ms. Amber Khan, who are both very active in community activism and interfaith dialogue. Before going to the break, Amber, you were talking about your experience with Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, which I'm also proudly a member of. And we did have this big conference in New Jersey at Drew University, which had more than 500 Muslim and Jewish women coming together to stand up together with and for each other. There is no question that there is now a very high degree of polarization and division that America is witnessing more than ever before. What is the importance of this kind of act of solidarity between interfaith communities, especially at this time, in your opinion, Amber?
I think that's a really critical question, because I think that the environment that we're living in is not only overwhelming but can feel disempowering. And I think that the combination of the events of the last, frankly, even in the last 2 weeks, of trying to make sense of what are the kind of foundations and institutions we can trust in our society, in our community, that the relationships that we have with each other to affirm the values that we believe in, and to forge the relationships that reinforce our connection to our community, our sense of trust, and our belief and our willingness to invest time and energy in defending the values and the things we care about. And the reason this matters more than ever now is because we have a remarkably skeptical and I think overwhelmingly confused kind of public conversation about who do we trust and what do we trust. And that, from a political science or from a historical perspective, is a real challenge to, I think, and I believe, our civic life. We have to reinforce and strengthen our relationship to organizations and to individuals that represent and hold the values and are willing to stand up to defend those values in constructive ways. And the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, the conference last year you mentioned, which I had the privilege and opportunity to speak at, was absolutely inspiring for a couple of reasons. Not just the issues that we were talking about, but the number of women who traveled from around the country who had never before been a part of anything like it, needing to be able to connect and find a place where they could find the tools and the solidarity to know that they can address and confront and feel strong moving forward. And I think that this year's conference, which has already been announced, and registration, and I understand registration has already picked up well beyond last year's pace. You know, this year's conference is going to be again in November, I believe November 5th in Madison, New Jersey, and the expectation is we're going to sell out quickly, and the focus again is how do we learn and share from our collective experience.
Absolutely.
The ways that we can resist and support each other. So it's not negative, Sahar. It is, the reason I think it is so powerful is it is positive, it's constructive, but it's affirming the values and demanding, I think, of each other that we stand up for each other in small ways and in big ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's indeed a very positive experience. There's no question about it. And then talking about the same point about polarization and division, there is no question that there has been an unprecedented degree of polarization and division in the United States recently. And I know that you're active in a number of initiatives in the interfaith community beyond even JIDS to try to bring people of different faith traditions together to stand up with and for each other in this climate. What is the importance of these acts of interfaith solidarity and seeing people, wearing hijab, yarmulke, wearing the cross, coming from different faith traditions, standing up with and for each other? What is the symbolic and actual practical importance of these acts of solidarity, especially now?
Well, I think more than anything else, it gets people to stop preaching to the choir and opening their minds and opening their hearts and realizing that, frankly, we're all related. We're all family. But I want to step back for a moment and explain a little bit about this polarization. I know something of this. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. My parents took me to civil rights marches when I was in elementary school. I was mocked by a gym teacher. I wasn't a particularly good athlete as, quote, Super Jew. And my nickname in a camp in West Virginia, getting back to what Amber was saying about not every part of the country is like D.C., my nickname was Bangladesh. So I'm this Jewish kid, but they called me Bangladesh. Why? Because I had darker skin than the other kids in West Virginia. So on the one hand, I grew up with a racial consciousness, a Jewish identity, as being something other than, part of the white majority, if you will. But now we live in a time when, there's more and more identity politics being played. So I'll turn on a news show, and I'll hear someone say, as a woman, or as a person of color, or as a gay person. And I just can imagine all these people in America who for the longest time have been in the majority and had more power, if you will, starting to feel, well, what about me? Am I a person who's colorless? Am I a person who doesn't have gender? If they're a white male, for example. So you're sort of dividing this country. It's almost like it's becoming two countries. You have people who are sort of embracing the diversity and embracing their identity as someone who comes from a historically discriminated against group. And then you have another group of people who are saying, wait a minute, am I to not have any rights for the next 100 years because of what happened over the last 2,000? And what I want to do, and this is why I used the word allies before, is I want us to talk about substantive ideas when we're together in interfaith conferences. We try to get in JIS, we try to get really deep and intellectual and address issues and challenge people's minds and get away from, if you will, kind of superficial identity political dialogues where people can feel either left out or that they have an extra right to talk. Because I'm not saying we should be colorblind. I'm not saying we should ignore gender differences. There's plenty of gender discrimination and racial discrimination in this country. But I think the best way to combat it is to truly practice sort of intellectual soul-searching, spiritual soul-searching, opening our mind and hearts to great ideas. And when we all do it together, then that's when we really form the greatest bonds and respect.
You touched
Dan,
can
I jump in for 1 second, Sahar? Sorry.
Yes, I just want to highlight something very important that Dan mentioned here, and then I can allow you to comment on it also, Amber. But the very important point that you mentioned, Dan, is that sometimes when people use the term, people of color, which I'm not particularly in love with, for the very same reason you mentioned, it's because, everybody has some color. Even white is indeed a color. But I mean, the fact that there are these boundaries and these divisions and these polarizations across lines of gender, race, I should also add religion as well, because there is racial discrimination, there is gender discrimination, there is also religious discrimination. There is no question about it. But I want you to touch upon the fact that, number one, how can we bridge some of these differences then in terms of bringing these communities who think that they're so far apart closer together? And number two, what is the symbolic importance of these acts of solidarity between people of different faith traditions in this current climate in particular?
Well, it starts with the clergy, I think. We need a greater commitment on the part of the clergy to sort of open their houses of worship to the other. So there's a lot of people, for example, in Washington, D.C., Jews and Muslims, who are saying, how can we find churches in rural areas where they may not meet many Jewish people or they may not meet many Muslim people, and sort of, invite Jews and Muslims into the church and have, and engage with one another. Well, that only will happen if the clergy of these respective faiths will get active in this regard. And it has tremendous symbolic significance. Obviously, it's great, great photographs, and everybody loves it when the Huffington Post and whatnot shows them, or there's a TV show that shows people. But, I mean, this is not just about symbolism. This is the only way we're going to actually take two countries and become one country again. And and that's why I keep hyping the word allies. Jewish Islamic Dialogue Society of Washington is for Jews, it's for Muslims, and it's for allies. And there are so many people right now who are not allies. They are alienated by Jews or Muslims or both. And so we are an inclusive group because, and sometimes we even have applause for we ask who are the non-Jews and Muslims here, and people applaud them because they are the ones that are really standing up for diversity and variety and for this, not preaching to the choir but embracing the other ethos that we have.
But this is a very important point. Justice not just for us, but also trying to spread the umbrella even wider and cast the net even wider to include other communities and other groups and really build true alliances. We'll come back to these very important points after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
There's a cool vibe in Detroit these days, the same vibe that's at Marygrove College. We've got great career-oriented degrees that will put you on the path to your future, on campus and online. Why not explore Marygrove? You can start college this spring. Go to marygrove.edu or call 313-927-1240 to get more information. International students pay the same rate as domestic students, and let us empower you.
Life for Relief and Development is a nonprofit charity that has been providing humanitarian aid and development to people and communities regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background for over 22 years. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life rushes to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Life also has development projects to provide medical relief, water purification, educational programs, relief for orphans, and much more. Your help and support can greatly improve these efforts. All donations are tax deductible. For more information, please visit our website at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's lifeusa.org, 248-424-7493.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them one or two benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
Welcome to the United States. Please proceed to the passport control.
ماذا يقول؟ إلى أين أذهب؟ ماذا علي أن أفعل؟ لو سمحت، هل تساعدني؟ ماذا قال هذا الرجل في الإعلان؟
ألا تعرف الإنجليزية؟
أعرف، ولكن أساسيات فقط.
عليك بتعلم اللغة.
ولكن أين؟ يوتيكا كوميونيتي سكول ESL بروجرام، أساتذة متخصصون، منهج متميز، يمكنك التسجيل طوال العام. لرسوم التسجيل ومواعيد الفصول الدراسية عليك الاتصال بالهاتف رقم
586-797-6960 586-797-6960.
تحدث اللغة وتعلم نمط الحياة مع يوتيكا كوميونيتي سكول ESL بروجرام. تعلم، تحدث وأكثر.
حكي معقولة أفهم في العين وأفهم كمان في
ومن بمثل خبرة الدكتور عماد نقاش أستاذ الطب وجراحة العيون في جامعة وين، خبرة طويلة في التعامل مع أمراض العيون وجراحتها، عمليات تعديل وتصفية النظر، إزالة الماء الأبيض والأسود الجلوكوما، وتصحيح النظر من أثار مرض السكر. كادر متخصص ومتدرب لخدمتكم. شعبة متخصصة للنظارات الطبية والهندسة اللاصقة. يقبلون معظم أنواع التأمين الصحي. زورهم في عيادتهم الواقعة على جنار والناين مايل في مدينة هيزل بارك. للمواعيد اتصلوا على 248-336-3937 248-336-3937 أو عيادتهم في راجستر هاوس. للمعلومات اتصلوا على 248-299-3937 248-299-3937.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM and wdmv 700 AM. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, and we are discussing today a topic which is dear and near to my heart: interfaith solidarity, combating divisions, and boosting spirituality. And with me this morning discussing this interesting and important topic are two people who are very active in the interfaith community, Mr. Daniel Spiro and Ms. Amber Khan. We were talking about the importance of interfaith work and interfaith solidarity in terms of combating divisions and bridging some of the differences and polarization that exists now. And Dan, you were talking about a lot of these important issues, and I think Amber had something to say or to comment about this. So Amber, you have a chance to make your comment now.
Yeah, no, thank you. I agree that we need to, there were several things, Daniel, that you said that I really agree with from my own experience. And when you describe your story from West Virginia, you know, I can appreciate some of the kind of the reality of that experience, but also the stark chasm that we have in this country. I have a lot of relatives who live in the South, in Georgia and in Tennessee and Alabama, and you know, it is not easy. And in fact, I was just talking to my siblings who were telling me that in many ways it's harder than when we were growing up in the 80s. And I paused with that, and I thought about that and what that meant, and what do we do? How do we challenge that? How do we change that? What do we have to invest of ourselves? And I absolutely agree about the importance of reaching out beyond the choir and having intellectual, reasoned conversation. But my experience, and the experience I have witnessed over and over and over again over the last 40-some years, is that it is actually common effort together addressing an issue, a challenge in a community, working together to address something with our neighbors and our friends who are different from us is how we build the alliances and the relationships that shatter the myths and stereotypes that divide. And it was truly, you know, packing Thanksgiving dinners together and collecting clothes or raising diapers for the diaper bank or volunteering for the PTA. You know, Sunday and Saturday socials to invite new members of the community, and those types of activities, those efforts, the working together to achieve a positive common end for our community is how I think we create the bridge. Because the reality, and having been an organizer and a community organizer and worked on campaigns, it's very difficult to reach beyond the choir when you begin at a place that is at a level in which we assume the other is with us. And I think that the common civic bonds that used to hold us together through civic organizations and Rotary clubs and book clubs and organizations that led us to meet each other because we weren't seeing each other on the street because we were all trapped in our cars. You know, that metaphor extends even deeper when we think about how and where we get our information or media. And I think it underscores even more the need for us to utilize approaches that have us engaging in common effort for our larger, greater community. The Sisterhood does something like this. It's the Sadaqah Day, in which Muslim and Jewish women work together around on Christmas to do something for our community, and in places like Kansas and Austin and Oklahoma City and Tulsa, you know, when Muslim and Jewish women who are not celebrating a holiday go go to help at a homeless shelter to relieve the Christian workers so that they can celebrate with their families and know that the clients and the members of the community who are hungry will not be alone is the way I think we build alliances, the way we build bridges. And it's the personal, it is the human, and it is the social way in which we remind ourselves of our humanness, and we get to know each other and see each other beyond the identity labels that can carry so many different meanings for so many different people.
Absolutely, very well said. I was going to bring up this exact example. I'm glad you mentioned it, Amber, which is Jewish and Muslim women coming together on Christmas, which is a holiday they don't celebrate. Both of them don't celebrate Christmas. So they come together to serve the community and to serve the homeless and the needy on this very particular day. Again, that's a very important point in terms of reaching out beyond even our own, faith communities and our own, small groups to serve the wider community. And I think one magical word, one key word I heard from both of you, Dan and Amber, is the word alliances. Having allies and building alliances, that has been a magical word, which I think is very, very important because, as we said, justice is not just for us, it's for everybody else, and building these community alliances and activism is very important. Now, I want to be true also to the topic of today. We talked a lot about the first part, which is combating divisions. We want to also focus on the second part, which is boosting spirituality, which I believe is another very important benefit of interfaith work and interfaith engagement. I'll start with you, Dan, if you want to talk a little bit about how you believe that interfaith work can really boost spirituality and how this has been the case for you.
Well, it absolutely can and must build spirituality. I think that each of the great religions, and I'm not just talking about the Abrahamic religions, are uniquely beautiful. And it's funny, I once gave a book talk about my second book, which was mostly about Judaism, but also somewhat about Islam, to a Jewish audience. And I asked them if they can name anything uniquely beautiful about Christianity. And of course, people started talking about the Gospels and the ethics of Jesus, etc. And then I asked the same question about Islam. Anything uniquely beautiful? And I heard radio silence. And I wasn't shocked because we grow up in a society where each of the great faiths sort of thinks that, they've cornered the market on what is beautiful, and what they look for in the other faiths is the same kind of beauty. In America, we hear so much about Christianity that we do absorb it, but we don't tend to absorb it about other faiths. And what we need to understand with interfaith is that every faith is uniquely beautiful. There is something in each faith that is emphasized that the other faiths don't emphasize as much. And that if you tap into that, you can grow so much spiritually in your own faith within your own religion. And so it's that exposure to what is uniquely beautiful in your cousin faith that is so enriching. And, I know that, for example, for Muslims who have read the Quran and they see so much about the Jewish Bible and the Christian Bible, some might think, well, I don't need to be that much exposed to Judaism because I already know Judaism because I know their Bible. But of course, Judaism is so much more than our Bible. Judaism is the Talmud, Judaism is the Kabbalah, Judaism is a lot of philosophers who've lived over the last 1,000, 2,000 years. It's a living, growing thing. So no one can sort of have an exposure to a small amount of any of these faiths and feel like they fully appreciate it. And if I could just say one more thing about the last point that Amber made, I think she's absolutely correct. There needs to be, fellowship work and social service work as well as dialogue. I want to throw out one thing that I try not to get political, and I'm not going to get political as an interfaith leader. But one thing I think we can all sort of work together on is getting people out to vote. We have 36% of this country votes in midterms, 55% vote for president. That doesn't show much interest in making this country work. And I think people of all faiths should embrace the idea of getting people out to participate in that incredible institution of democracy Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or whatever, it shouldn't matter. You should support that cause.
So I hear also the theme of engagement and the theme of activism and the theme of community involvement as part of boosting spirituality, coming very clearly from both of you, Amber and Dan, and I think this is a very important point. Right after this commercial break, we'll come to a very important topic, which is the spirituality of Ramadan and how the interfaith community is preparing for it. So stay tuned after this commercial break, please.
The Rama Relief Foundation provides humanitarian aid into areas inside of war-torn Syria, as well as aid to the refugees who have fled to the neighboring countries in the Middle East. The foundation offers food baskets, container shipment, mental health, education, soup kitchens, and more. Go to ramarelief.org or call 248-990-4247. Any donation amount made to Rama will go to sustaining many lives. Call now 248-990-4247.
Welcome to the United States. Please proceed to the passport control.
ماذا يقول؟ إلى أين أذهب؟ ماذا علي أن أفعل؟ لو سمحت، هل تساعدني؟ ماذا قال هذا الرجل في الإعلان؟
ألا تعرف الإنجليزية؟
أعرف، ولكن أساسيات فقط.
عليك بتعلم اللغة.
ولكن أين؟ يوتيكا كوميونيتي سكول ESL بروجرام، أساتذة متخصصون، منهج متميز، يمكنك التسجيل طوال العام. لرسوم التسجيل ومواعيد الفصول الدراسية عليك الاتصال بالهاتف رقم
586-797-6960 586-797-6960.
تحدث اللغة وتعلم نمط الحياة مع يوتيكا كوميونيتي سكول ESL بروجرام. تعلم، تحدث وأكثر.
رمضان كريم.
في رمضان ذي ألوان تنفرد بأحدث وأقوى إنتاجات الدراما الهندية التي لن تجدها في أي مكان آخر. في سباق الدراما لرمضان هذا العام لنا هدف واحد، هو إرضاؤك.
I like it.
ذي ألوان، لون رمضانك.
أسواق زمزم الواقع على 24065 أورشارد ليك في مدينة فارمington هيلز ترحب بالجالية العربية والكلدانية. تنزيلات كبيرة على عموم المواد الغذائية في يوم الأربعاء من كل أسبوع. لا تنسوا فريش كاري اوت، جميع انواع المعجنات، وايضا صواني الكمبو المشكله والصمون الحار. لحوم حلال الجاليه العربيه والاسلاميه، الملحمه باداره قصاب الجاليه المعروف سلوان جربوع. زوروهم على 24065 اورشارد ليك في مدينه فارمington هيلز، او اتصلوا بهم على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمذاق عنوان لجميع طلباتكم. اتصلوا على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمعامله الراقية وكرم الضيافة عنوان. مراكز IVF للخصوبة وأطفال الأنابيب تستقبل مراجعيها في بلومفيلد هيلز ومراكزها المنتشرة في ميشيغان وأوهايو. فريق من أمهر الأخصائيين في مجال التلقيح الاصطناعي. يعتبر دكتور شمة أخصائي الأمراض النسائية والتوليد من أمهر استشاريي الأمراض التناسلية والعقم، بخبرة أكثر من 10,000 عملية طفل أنبوب. رعاية طبية ممتازة وتفهم عميق للأثر العاطفي والنفسي لتأثير العقم على الحالة النفسية. لمزيد من المعلومات اتصلوا على 248-952-9600 248-952-9600.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM, and
on WDMV 700 AM.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, and we're talking today about interfaith solidarity, combating divisions, and boosting spirituality. And my guests today are Mr. Daniel Spiro and Ms. Amber Khan. We are getting ready in just a few days to start the holy month of fasting, the holy month of Ramadan for Muslims. Then I know that JIDS, Jewish Islamic Dialogue Society, is going to be holding an event during the holy month of Ramadan, and I know also that you're planning to fast on this particular day. We have a few minutes left in the program, and we have a lot to talk about. So you can briefly tell us a little about the event itself, and tell us also about why you are making the decision to fast on this particular day.
We are going to meet at 6 p.m. at Masjid Muhammad, which is called itself the Nation's Mosque. It's primarily African American, and it's not far from the capital, Washington, nation's capital. And June 4th at 6 p.m., and we will be going from 6 p.m. until time to break the fast. And the event is going to be co-sponsored by Operation Understanding DC, which brings 12 African-American teenagers and 12 Jewish American teenagers together every year for a social justice program that lasts the entire year. And we will be talking about God. We will be talking about wrestling with a holy name. We will be hearing many presentations from a couple of Jewish people, a couple of Muslim people, including the imam of the masjid, and a couple of Christian people. And if one of those people is a non-believer, that's fine. We want to get out diverse views. Then we will be having, Q&A and small group discussions. And the hope is that, the teenagers who participate will become more, fascinated by the holy name, which is something that is near and dear to me. It's something that I write about very much. And, well, I'm going to be giving a little mini presentation about how I came to become a believer. I was not when I was a teenager, but I came to believe in God going to Israel in 1981, and I've been a believer ever since. And I don't think it would be appropriate for me to be fortified with food and drink in such a venue when my Muslim cousins are fasting. And I'm talking about such a holy topic. So I'm going to fast like I would on Yom Kippur. And I'm very much looking forward to it. When you fast, it makes you much more spiritual. It makes your heart open up. It makes you weep from love. And maybe I'll keep it under control in that regard, but I am very much looking forward to the event.
Well, this sounds like a very interesting and important event. I would really say it's really important in terms of boosting the solidarity and also at the same time boosting spirituality. So I think the importance of this event that you just described to us really serves both the factor about solidarity and standing with the other and showing the kind of bond and linkage between different communities and also boosting spirituality. So good luck with the 16 to 17 hour fast. It's going to be your first experience fasting in the holy month of Ramadan, and I hope it's going to be a fascinating and enriching experience. And Amber, being an American Muslim, of course the holy month of Ramadan is very, very important, and also the element of interfaith activities. Like sometimes we hold the interfaith iftars, bringing together members of different faith communities in the holy month of Ramadan. If you can talk a little bit about that briefly, please.
Yeah, no, and inshallah, I will be at the event, at the JIDS event, and we'll be bringing my family. So I'm looking forward to the program, Dan.
Fantastic.
I think that the month, in my family and in our community, one of the things that we talk a lot about is that the month of Ramadan is a time for fasting, not only from food at the most basic level, but it's also from fasting from the bad habits that we have. And one of the bad habits that we have, I think, is making assumptions about other people. And so many organizations, and I think individuals are using this month, I think, as an opportunity to reach out. I'll I'll be involved in a number of iftars and gatherings where we're inviting friends who don't know about Islam to learn about the fast and to break the meal with us, but also reaching out to our Muslim brothers and sisters who we don't know enough about and who we harbor our own kind of misunderstandings. I think one of the dangers of talking about interfaith bridge building is to not acknowledge, to be really candid, the importance of embracing and recognizing our own biases and our own challenges and divides within our communities. And so one of the things that I'm working on with a group is among Muslims is facilitating and fostering more conversation and breaking of the fast with communities that we may not interact with, that we may not know or understand or have assumptions about. And, you know, God willing, this will be an opportunity to open our hearts, to learn, to fast from bad ideas, to become stronger in our values and our beliefs, and to recognize the power of change that we have within us. I think the first time that my son fasted when he was 13, he was really afraid. And at the end of the day, when we were breaking the fast, he said to me that it was extraordinarily inspiring because he was able to do it. And it just, the ability to have that kind of control, the ability to set an intention and keep it was extraordinarily empowering. And in an environment and in a time and in an era where many of us feel like we don't have control and we don't have power and we don't have clarity, I think the ritual and the art of fasting can be very nourishing and cleansing on many levels. And I'm looking forward to celebrating and participating in iftars with a number of allies and community organizations, and I encourage listeners who are interested to reach out if they want to learn about Islam and about fasting. I know many mosques participating with the Islamic Society of North America will be holding open houses during the month of Ramadan, inviting community leaders and local elected officials and interested members of the community to join in participating in the breaking of the fast. And I really do encourage anyone who's listening, who's curious or interested in learning more, to reach out. And the beauty of the web and the beauty of all the media is that it is at our fingertips.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we are closing, we just have like a couple of minutes left. So very briefly, our listeners, of course, are mostly the Arab American, Muslim American community in the United States and some parts of Canada. In one sentence, Amber, if you want to send a message to our listeners today at the end of the program, and of course we are coming close to the holy month of Ramadan, what would your message be?
I would say let's open our doors. Let's open our doors and welcome the stranger. Let's welcome the strangers who we feel may not understand us or may not know us. I know in my community and in many of the communities where we have felt under attack, demoralized, or diminished, we found a lot of inspiration and hope by seeing our neighbors posting signs and unlikely allies emerge in different parts of our world. And I think that this month, let us not only come together to affirm each other, but let's open our doors. Let's welcome those who don't know us to better see us and to know us.
Amen. Amen. And then also in one sentence, what is the message you would like to send to our listeners today?
The message of hope. I have been so blessed by having friendships with Arab people, Muslims, Christians, both. And I hope that Jewish people will welcome you into their hearts, become your friends, and share with you what is uniquely beautiful about our faith, just as I have learned what is uniquely beautiful about my cousin's faith.
Absolutely. And on this very beautiful note, we would like to bring our program today to an end. Although this is a very interesting conversation, I would love to continue with it. And I really do have this passion, as you both know, for interfaith dialogue. Hopefully we'll have you both again on the program on Radio Baladi on US Arab Radio to talk about all the great work you are doing out there in the community. Let me thank you both very sincerely for being our guests today on US Arab Radio, and also for the great work you are both doing in the community. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Dan. It was a pleasure to be on the show with you this morning.
You too, Amber. You too, Amber.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all our listeners this morning. Thank you all, and have a happy and blessed day and a happy and blessed month of Ramadan. Thank you. Take care and goodbye.